Welcome, influential women, to the New Time Paradigm. I'm Julie Rogers, and today's webinar is about, you guessed it, time. As a podcaster for the Writers' Colony at Deary Hollow and a full-time editor, I collaborate with many creators and entrepreneurs who recognize the importance of time and how it factors into what they do every single day. What do you think about when you hear the word time? As an influencer, I used to spend a large part of my day trying to find more time by drilling down on an impossible list of tasks. When I started using some of the principles in the New Time Paradigm, I realized you don't have to find more time when time can find you. We'll talk more about that. 3 common questions I get from freelancers and self-employed creators are: to make this project better, where should I invest my time? How do I get the best financial returns for my time? Can I find more efficient ways to manage time-consuming tasks? All good questions, but one I rarely get about time, or at least up front, is how do I know the time I employed while doing this was well spent? We'll look at all these questions in this webinar, but first let's talk about time. It's something all of us live and breathe in. Most of us might describe time as an experience or a series of experiences, something that, when we stand back and look, we often approach like we don't have enough. We're born and the clock starts counting down. I'm going to start by contradicting our linear concept of time, just a bit, by suggesting that time is, first and foremost, a perceived series of events. When you think about time, what comes up for you? You know, the mind chatter. What do you tell yourself about time? I have a note on my computer that reads, look at how you live. To take a deeper look at how I live on any given day, I start by observing some of the words flying around in my mind at neural speeds up to 270 miles per hour. That's the average speed of thought. And that's fast. This also happens to be the way we task much of our activity during our waking hours. It's no wonder the process of slowing down long enough to truly hear our own mind chatter about anything can be difficult. The awareness and ability to really listen to what we repeat to ourselves is behind our mind's trapdoor. But once I truly hear what I'm telling myself about my experiences in time, I'll gain a much deeper awareness about how I'm related to this concept called time. So, I'm going to virtually stand outside my brain for a bit and make a note about some of the thoughts I've had about time. Some thoughts that travel so quickly, they often have virtually none of my attention. Here's a few I've told myself. Time's not on my side. We don't have enough time for that. Time flies. She doesn't manage her time very well. You're out of time. It was a kinder and gentler time. We had all the time in the world then. Time out. They're just killing time. That was time well spent. And my personal favorite, let me see if I can find some time in here for you. One of the reasons I believe time dogs us so is because life appears to be linear. Past, present, future. Cause and effect. Then and now. We created this time construct because it works in this world. To survive, we learn a very sequential nature of time and how to arrange our schedules within it. Scheduling life events started long ago with basic human adaptations like when to plant and when to migrate. Later, it became our to-do list, our short and long-term goals, our scheduling devices, whether it's a wiki at a glance, a calendar on our smartphones, or an alert on our smartwatch. I don't know about you, but for me, all those schedules can introduce something I call checklist discontent. You know, the days you don't get everything done on the list. The little interruptions that steal away minutes and hours from what you'd intended to complete before noon. The software application that took way longer to install than you ever thought it would. As long as we're bound by a linear construct, we see and measure time only in this way. We're organizing it, listing it, and often pushing against it, or trying to get out ahead of it. Seconds, minutes, weeks, months, years, sunrise, sunset. The New Time Paradigm is a way for entrepreneurs who have too many plates in the air and constantly feel on a time crunch to use a simple and satisfactory organizational framework. When we identify and focus on what matters most to us, we begin to observe and use time differently. We begin relating to time in a new way and feeling differently about time. Some of these concepts about time germinated for me back in college, when schedules and to-do lists became more critical to my personal organization, achievement, and getting the grades. I had an aha moment one day when I saw the connection between time and emotion. I noticed that the more discontent I was, the less time seemed to work in my favor. This eventually led me to start incorporating components from the law of attraction, or LOA. LOA teaches that we draw things toward us based upon our intentions and how we think. The kind of energy we put out, we get back. A large part of LOA theory involves becoming aware of negative self-talk. Statements like, I can't, I don't want, I shouldn't. When I first began using LOA, I got the heebie-jeebies about how many negative statements I made to myself or others each day. Later, I began to relax and realize that negative self-talk is simply a means to an end. If we can specifically identify what we don't want or don't like and understand why we don't want or don't like it, we can more accurately identify what we do want, do like, and why. So instead of saying, I don't want to have an accident, or we can't afford to have an accident, you might say, I'd like to navigate safely, or we need to arrive safe and sound. I call this developing your will train tracks. WILL is an acronym that stands for what it looks like. What it looks like is a casual form of visualization we all incorporate to perform our daily activities, whether we realize it or not. What are you going to have for lunch? There it is, the idea that already popped into your mind, or that one. What it looks like can happen just that fast. Remember, neural speeds up to 270 miles per hour. Will becomes one of the building blocks for the way you relate to time. The reason paying attention to what it looks like is important is because this form of casual visualization factors into the intrinsic connection between time and emotion. I'm asking you to start paying attention to your personal satisfaction quotient to determine where you feel discontented about how you're spending your time and to identify what it looks like, what satisfies you. Think about something currently in your life that you don't want and write it down over here on the left-hand side at number 1. Let it help you define what you do want over here on the right-hand side. If you can't think of something right now to replace the process over here on the left, leave that alone and go to the next sentence. Feel free to pause this video while you write out your thoughts. The things you list on the left are also will, or what it looks like, but they don't have to be. Acknowledging what you don't like will help you more carefully define what you do like. The will on the right-hand side can help you create time for doing more of the things you like, want, and enjoy. Here's one of my own examples. I don't like being judged or mistrusted. Well, the fact is, that is going to happen because, yes, I'm going to make mistakes. And yes, other people are free to choose from their own perspectives how they see me. But let's say I replace this statement over here on the left with its opposite on the right. I like it when others trust me. That's a simple replacement. But let's go behind that and follow that up with a proactive action I can take to be more trustworthy. I like it when I communicate with integrity. I like it when I act with integrity. There's the baseline for beginning to transform the will on the left to the will on the right. And this actionable reality on the right, because I feel good about it, is far less time consuming than stewing over what others think about me. So paying attention to what satisfies you, to your personal satisfaction quotient, is key. What do you like? What do you want? What do you enjoy? A successful schedule isn't about how quickly you can check off the list. It's about how contented you are during the time you spend checking off the list. It's about feeling satisfied even when you don't get around to everything on your list. We'll talk more about that later. Identifying what you like and don't like isn't about beating yourself up for feeling dissatisfied either, or for recognizing the things you don't like in your daily experience. This awareness is your ground zero for discovering what's keeping you from moving forward. So we know that you can reach your personal satisfaction quotient by doing more of the things you like, want, and enjoy. But what guides those feelings? Feelings of satisfaction and contentment are connected to experiences you value. An innate part of feeling satisfied versus dissatisfied with how you spend your time each day begins with what you value, what you feel driven to attend to each day, what drives you to get out of bed and start each day, experiences you value. Every day, these core values line up right over here and ask you to pay attention to them, to honor them. Whether you keep track of it or not, you're constantly making choices about how important each core value is to you, how it factors into your life, how much time you'll devote to it. And yes, you're likely to designate blocks of time for one core value over another based upon what you believe that core value requires of you. They are a huge piece of how we function in time. They are also an integral part of the new time paradigm shift. For the sake of simplicity, I'll start with 4 classic examples: God, family, career, and health. There are many others: community, sustainability, creativity, expression. I encourage you to drill down on what resonates with you when identifying your 4 core values. Mine won't look exactly like yours, and yours won't look exactly like others, even people you feel very close and emotionally connected to. Feel free to pause this video while you write out your core values. The core values I chose to start with were spirituality, family, creativity, and health. 2 major elements influence how much time you'll dedicate to honoring your 4 core values each day. 1, what honoring them looks like, and 2, their priority and importance. I could dedicate another webinar to identifying core values and the impact of writing out something called focal statements. But for this one, I'll stick to the basics. We've already talked a little bit about will, and here's how what it looks like becomes even more dynamic. For each of these core values, I'm going to write out a focal statement or an intentional directive to help me identify how I'd like to honor these values, what I want each one to look like. A good focal statement for designing the potential impact a core value has in your life might take a few days to generate. So I'd encourage you to give each one some thought. Keep in mind that every word in a focal statement is intentional and is packed with intention. That 3 to 5 word statements hold the most power. Here's the focal statements for my core values. In this example, let's look at family. At the time I originally wrote out my focal statement about family, my husband and I were caring for our aging parents and a teenage son. A stressful time with ample opportunities for miscommunication and disharmony. I knew that family matters would require more than just an appeal or an exploration from me, for example. I would have to muster a certain level of commitment and the time requirements that came with that. One day, my commitment to family unity might be as simple as a phone call or a group text, and the next day it might entail a visit to my son's school or to the doctor. By identifying the most impactful way I could honor this core value on any given day, I found I was much more satisfied with the time I spent in each of these endeavors. For health, my focal statement involved engaging in exercise programs, alternative medical care, and proactive lifestyles that specifically made my body the host to the soul, a seamless environment for consciousness to thrive in. I use the word seamless very intentionally because I wanted to give my body what it needed to function optimally, seamlessly, so that pain or ill health didn't distract me from living fully. Can core values change? I believe they can, which will also change the way you relate to time. For example, family is still a core value for me, but my son has graduated. Our parents have passed, and my husband and I are now empty nesters. I could continue to honor this core value and commit to family unity, but guess what? Maybe that's not how I need to honor that value anymore. I know this by how I feel about it, my personal satisfaction quotient. So it's time to rewrite that focal statement and what it looks like. These days, my husband and I enjoy looking for ways to carve out moments for new discoveries and experiences with new dynamics. To get into emotional sync with making new discoveries, I no longer need to focus on preserving unity. I need a new focal statement with exploration, discovery, and adventure in it. Because we're older, We're looking for low-risk, short-term experiences as day trippers, so to speak. Here's my new vocal statement. Discover new family fun. Vocal statements will help you define how you'll honor your core values each day and what that looks like in terms of dedicated clock time. The second major element that influences how much time you spend honoring each core value is its priority, its order of importance in your life. Here's how you determine that. Grab 4 Post-it notes or slips of paper and write your 4 core values on each one. Lay them out in front of you. Now, you'll need to give me one of them. It goes away forever. You can no longer engage with it or honor it. Which one will it be? It goes right here. Continue doing that with all 4. Feel free to pause this video while you do this. The first one you gave me is your number 4 priority. The last one you gave me is your number 1. Here's where your personal satisfaction quotient comes to play. If you repeatedly don't follow out your intention to honor number 1, you're likely to feel less satisfied. Let me ask you a question. Do you think the pecking order of your core values can change? I believe it can. For that very reason, I think it's important to continue to reevaluate your core values' order of importance to you on any given day. When your values' order of importance changes, so does the dedicated clock time. And that's okay too, because we have some other options for you in the new time paradigm. As an entrepreneur, freelancer, and influencer, you have what I call a sacred triangle of activity you create every day. In this sacred triangle of activity, you engage with what you do every day, investing time in your soul, your talent, and your market. Here's where a lot of us get hung up. How much clock time do I really need to devote to each of these? If, say, you're working an 8-to-5 job for a local factory making widgets, a job that doesn't require developing your skill set beyond a certain level, but pays you good money, that 8-hour slot is primarily devoted to your market or your survival. If you like what you're paid and one of your core values happens to be financial security, then you'll probably feel satisfied. I used this simpler example to demonstrate how a large slot of clock time might be dedicated to just one area of your sacred triangle, and how a core value would integrate into that. As a freelance creative, however, I have far more variability and vulnerability in these areas and how I spend my time because, to a certain extent, I'm the one calling the shots, right? I'm deciding how many minutes to devote to this or that, and when and where. What I've found is when I revise my schedule from a list or timeline into something I call slots, blocks, or focal points, it works better. Here's the idea. When I organize a daily list or schedule and how I'm going to execute it, I choose a few short focus activities and 1 or 2 long focus activities. When I'm doing a short focus activity, I'm doing something called single tasking. When I single task, I seek to minimize all distractions and fully engage only with the task in front of me. It's the only thing I do for the next 5 to 15 minutes. Then I take a break. I might come back later for another few minutes, or I might move on to another single task item. Many experts believe that single tasking is a far more effective way to complete projects, even larger ones. Single tasking is working with short bursts of energy, giving you a chance to reflect and reset more frequently. It's less tiring. As you practice this, you'll get better at identifying what kinds of activities quantify as single tasking. You'll figure out which activities give you more satisfaction when you single task them. Long focus activities can be easy too. I think we've all had the experience of getting caught up in something we enjoy. And where did the time go, right? The idea is to plan your day to incorporate both. Some days are better for single tasking, others for long focus. If your energy levels are running low, for example, it might be more satisfying to tackle a few single task items that day. So keeping a daily balance within your sacred triangle isn't necessarily devoting equal clock time to each area. It's more about the kind of focus you give each area and the satisfaction you get from that. I created a printable weekly planner I've used with the New Time Paradigm for 10 years, a tool where you can integrate core values, the sacred triangle, and your task-focused items in one place. Most importantly, keep in mind it's just a tool, a brainstorming tool, a place to sort things out. Here you can rewire your perception about time and what it means to you. First, you will notice that there's only a list for 8 major movements or events on any given day. There's a reason for this limit. I've found if we enlist ourselves in more than 8 major tasks a day, we risk burnout. Notice too that the divider between the days is not solid. This is a symbolic reminder that if I don't get around to a certain task on Monday, for example, I can give myself permission to slide it to another day. I don't have clock times on this grid either, and there's a reason for that. When it comes down to doing any of this, I may not complete these items in this order. I'm free to shuffle them around if I need to. I might choose to complete a couple of single task items back to back, then a long focus task. If I have an appointment for a certain time, I'll write it in with the designated arrival time. The second, third, and fourth columns at the top are about maintaining your sacred triangle, honoring your core values using their focal statements, and mapping out what that looks like for you on that day. Since your core values and their focal statements probably won't change as often as the rest, I've allotted 4 blocks per week. If your core value chain of command and their focal statements remain the same, you can simply draw a line like this. If something changes, you can write it in. Let's talk about the first column titled Commitment. When you open your eyes in the morning, your consciousness has already committed itself to wakefulness to start the day. And some days just don't start out that well. We all know that. Something unforeseen or life-altering steps in. We react, and away we go. Shit happens. But what if we develop a habit in those first few minutes of wakefulness to stage our day? So we start out the day creating, influencing, and developing our existence. Life doesn't just happen to us. How you start your day does matter. And when you stack up enough of what I'm going to call effectively staged days, the ones where shit happens to hit the fan first thing in the morning aren't as disempowering. So how do we stage a day? When I designed this first column, I didn't realize how effective it would become for problem solving, or what I'll call sleeping on it. Unraveling problems while you sleep with the power of the subconscious and dreaming is highly effective. Here's a problem-solving tool I've discovered. While I don't always write out the next day's schedule the night before, if I have something that's gnawing at me, a problem, or an issue I'm going to have to deal with the next day, I'll write it under today's list in a slot. Out here in the margin, I'll create a symbol that indicates I'm open to receiving insight about the problem, whether it's a question mark, a think bubble, or a lightning bolt. Whatever says to me, I'm ready for a download. I'll put the list on my bedside table with a pencil, ready to record whatever comes. If I get an answer, I'll write it up here by the word gratitude. I can start the day by being grateful for that. But guess what? If I don't receive an answer, I can also start the day by being grateful anyway. Because being grateful is being thankful before the thing you're being thankful for happens. That's a powerful way to start out any day, calling in something to be thankful for. If I bless the day, what am I doing? Am I giving myself the right to be happy, to share that happiness with others? And what about affirmations? Are affirmations more than hot air and wishful thinking? I believe they are. The core value focal statements we covered earlier, for example, can be used as affirmations and validations until they become your actionable realities. When designing affirmations, I've found that counter statements work better for me. Let's look at some examples. Here's a common self-criticism. I should be better at this by now. Or for me, I should have written more books by now. While a standard affirmation for either one of these self-criticisms might be, progress takes time, and it's okay to go at my own pace, I decided I needed something more. So I rewrote it like this. I have undertaken many other valuable endeavors. Counterstatements take affirmations farther down the road and give you more power to own them and to make them true for yourself. At the bottom of the page is a space for a quote of the week and something I call backlog. It's pretty easy these days to find an inspirational quotation online, something you'd like to carry with you over the course of a week. While I love daily quotations, I've found that a weekly quote, one that's significant enough to become a theme in my life over the next 7 days, is a huge teaching tool. In the course of a week, Life can bring many circumstances and events that show me deeper meanings behind the quote I chose for that week. Keep in mind that while following out a weekly quote is helpful for me at my learning pace, you can select what supports you best in your own experience. Lastly, most creative people I know have a list of backlogged items they'd like to get around to. If I'm not getting around to something that's on my list for a week or longer, it probably belongs on the backlog. I also find that I'm far less stressed when I allow an item or priority to take its place on the backlog. I might not get around to it this week, this month, or even this year, but it's important enough for me to keep around for now, as an intentional part of who I am on the backlog. I don't have to stress about it because it's there waiting for me when I'm ready. Coming back around to the questions we asked at the beginning of this webinar, how would you answer them now? Would you answer them differently? In review, I believe the new time paradigm can work for you too, because attending to your core values brings happiness and satisfaction into the mix. Paying attention to how satisfied you are with time helps you determine if you're listening to your true inner wisdom. Organizing your day into a balance of short tasking and long focus activities helps alleviate stress and fatigue. Aligning your satisfaction quotient with your daily schedule helps you identify what you can single task alongside long focus activities. Here are some things to remember. Core values determine what you decide to do each day. Your satisfaction quotient determines how you will go about doing these events. The TNTP weekly planner isn't just about events and time. It's about satisfaction with what you do in time. Clarity comes when you write out your core values and will, using the principles of law of attraction, and incorporate blessing, gratitude, and affirmation at the start of each day. I'm Julie Rogers, and thank you for tuning in to this webinar. If you'd like your own copy of the New Time Paradigm Weekly Planner, or have questions about this keynote, my coaching, or a TNTP workshop in your area, you can contact me at julierogersbooks.com. Until next time, be the influencer. Live your magic.